Good morning, North Davies, and welcome back to the Coach's Corner. I'm here with Cougar News Network members Shom, Tyler Dunbar, and Jack Townsend. This morning we're going to discuss and debate and talk about our top 5 movies of all time. Not necessarily the top 5 movies of all time as far as ratings or box office earnings, but just our top 5 movies maybe that we grew up on or that we enjoy watching. Jack's actually going to start us off this morning. Jack's got a field trip with the chemistry classes heading to Vincennes today. But before he leaves, I wanted to get his top movie, just his number one. He's not going to give us the top 5 due to time. But Jack, good morning, and just get right into your top movie and why you enjoy it.
Yes, good morning, Coach. Top movie, it's always a tough one. You can't, there's a bunch of movies out there you can't pick, a top favorite. But my favorite actors, Will Ferrell, Kevin Hart, just a bunch of the comedy. I like the comedy movies. But today I'm going to have to change it up. I'm going to go with Hoosiers. Since it's, preseason basketball, I always watch Hoosiers before basketball season. Mm-hmm. Always gets me pumped. So I think I'm going to have to go with Hoosiers, little Jimmy Chitwood action. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm going to have to stick it with Hoosiers.
Hoosiers is a nice pick, kind of a homer pick, but, that's fine. Definitely that time of year. We will definitely always have Hoosiers as a classic,
From Indiana for sure.
Yeah, whether you're, 60, 100, mm-hmm. 2, I mean, you're going to watch Hoosiers and know what it is when you're in this part of the state. So, Jack, thank you for joining us this morning. Hope you have a great time on your field trip. And
should be fun.
Maybe you'll watch Hoosiers on the way down there.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Yep. So, thanks, Jack.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're left with myself, Tyler Dunbar, and Shom. We're going to give you our top 5 movies, starting with number 5, and we're going to just rotate around the table here. I'm going to have TD lead us off. Shom's going to hit in the 2-hole, and I'll hit 3-hole. And we're going to start with number 5. So TD, give us number 5 and a couple thoughts, and we'll just move it around the table.
I got a classic, Forrest Gump, made in 1994. Of course, Tom Hanks, Robin Wright. I could watch this movie anytime. I watch it. I could almost recite this movie. I've watched it so many times. I just think it's a classic. I'll continue to watch it my whole life.
Forrest Gump, definitely a. You said it best. A classic. If it's on, you're watching it. More likely than not. A lot of messages in that movie as well. Civil rights, things. There's a lot of there's military parts. There's funny parts. There's business. There's friendship. There's heartbreak. There's everything. And Tom Hanks really knocked it out of the park. With Forrest Gump. Shom, number 5.
All right, for my number 5, it's kind of, I don't know if it's a lesser-known movie for me until I found it a few months ago, but it was Fruitvale Station. Came out in 2013. It's produced by Ryan Coogler. The main actors and actresses were Michael B. Jordan and Melanie Diaz. And it was the true story over Oscar Grant III and the last day he spent on Earth in 2008. And it's a movie over how his very last day and how the whole day he felt something in the air and everything wasn't going too well, and then sadly his life came to an end on that day, and it's just a beautiful movie on how he follows his last day of life.
Yeah, awesome. Personally, never seen that movie. Sounds great. Shom was talking to me this morning about how he likes this producer director a lot, so definitely something that I need to put on my list and watch at some point. For my number 5, another classic. And again, this is our personal top 5, not necessarily the consensus top 5 among experts. But my number 5 is going to be Dumb and Dumber. It's a movie that I grew up on, watching it with my brothers and my cousins. And now watching it with some of my friends and my wife. Basically, just when you're in that mood of needing a good laugh and not taking life too serious, that this is a movie you put on, and I can quote every movie or mostly every line from this movie. Jim Carrey, Jeff Daniels, just a classic. A lot of one-liners that I use basically every single day, or if not every day, a couple times a week. But for number 5 for me, 1994, Dumb and Dumber. TD, number 4.
I have A League of Their Own, 1992. Again, Tom Hanks. Madonna actually played in this one too. I think it's kind of, I just like baseball in general. And
yeah, as we know.
This one, it's got a little bit of everything too, a little bit of comedy, but it also shows you a little bit of history.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually 2 ballparks that are still around that were actually part of that movie was filmed at. I think Evansville Otters, where the Evansville Otters play, is one, and I think the DuBois County Bombers is one.
Yep, I think you're right. So Bossy Field, I believe, was used in that in that movie. I think Southridge's home baseball park, Southridge High School's home field was used in that movie.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks again. So far you're 2 for 2 with Tom Hanks movies, but nothing wrong with that. Tom Hanks is certainly one of the greats. And as they say, there's no crying in baseball, right? So
Exactly.
Solid choice there with number 4. Just a really, really solid movie. Shom, number 4.
All right, for my number 4, like TD was 2 for 2 with Tom Hanks. I'm 2 for 2 with Michael B. Jordan. My number 4, I went with the movie Creed, released in 2015. Was rated a 7.6 out of 10 by IMDb. And the main actors, like I said, Michael B. Jordan and good old Sylvester Stallone. Can't really go wrong with anything he's in. And it just follows the journey of Adonis Johnson, son of famous boxing Apollo Creed. And it's just him wanting to become a fighter to honor his father and getting trained by Sylvester. And, yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, Creed, one of those spin-offs from the original series Rocky. It goes basically from when Rocky fights Apollo Creed Jr., Apollo Creed the dad, or senior, sorry, the dad, in Rocky 1 and Rocky 2, and then it just leads up, as Sylvester Stallone has gotten older, he's become more of the mentor, and certainly a classic series, and can't go wrong with hardly any of them, although Rocky 5 was a little weak in my opinion, but solid choice, Shom. My number 4 is going to be The Dark Knight, Christian Bale and Heath Ledger. The Batman series with the Joker. So, there's a three movies there with Christian Bale as Batman, but this one was my favorite one of the 3. The Dark Knight Rises was a close second with Bane, but the Heath Ledger as the Joker really knocked it out of the park. And I think it affected his life in a way that kind of almost basically ended his life. He was so engulfed in his character, I think it basically affected his mental state of mind. That's sad to think, but he did such a fantastic job. It affected his life outside of work as well. Christian Bale, that deep, dark voice that he had as Batman. And just the storyline, really, how it all ties together, I thought was much better than any of the other Batmans. It was so well done from start to finish. How the puzzles connected, the pieces connected together. Just a fantastic series. Whenever at the end of the first Batman, it was called Batman Begins. They're at the top of that top of that building, and they're at the bat call, and they say this guy's got a new calling card, and they show the Joker card, and you're in the theater, and you're just like, why can't I watch it right now? Because you know what's coming as a fan. So The Dark Knight, a 9.0 out of 10. Extremely high score. This was in the top 20, top 30, top 10 on some lists that I saw of all time, regardless of genre. Heath Ledger, Christian Bale, 2008, The Dark Knight. So that's where I'm gonna put for my number 4. So number 3, start with TD here.
I went on a limb here. It was kind of a toss-up between League of Their Own and this one. I'm going with Black Panther, 2018. Another Michael B. Jordan, Chadwick Boseman. I think it just portrays a lot of, I don't know, it's just, you can't not watch it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've watched it I think Landon and I went 2 weekends right in a row and watched it again.
Mm-hmm.
And just,
then seems to be a common theme here. Is Michael B. Jordan in that one as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you guys seem to really have a liking for for Michael Jordan, which I mean, who doesn't? I mean, whether it's the hoopster or the actor. But Black Panther, I know a lot of a lot of kids and a lot of people when it came out love it. It's on Netflix, I believe, or at least it was. If you get a chance,
so,
you want to. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix, so tune into that.
Yeah, I grew up as watching any type of superhero movie.
Mhm.
We would go all the time, and
Mm-hmm.
I just had to watch this one, and I'm can't get away from it now. I've watched it 4 or 5 times, and it never gets old.
Absolutely. Shom, number 3.
All right, for my number 3, I went with the movie Sully, released in 2016, was a 7.6 out of 10 by IMDb. The main actors, Tom Hanks and Aaron Eckhart, and it follows the storyline on Thursday, January 15th, 2009. Captain Chelsea Sullenberger, where did he get named Sully, guided his disabled plane and landed it safely on the waters of the Hudson River with no one dying. All 155 people came out unscathed, and he was heralded by the public and media for being so great, but then he also was investigated and threatened, almost had his reputation and career taken away from him from the higher ups of the airplane world company, saying he tried to be a hero and could have made it to another runway to land safer, and just follows that storyline. It's an amazing movie.
I've seen Sully, watched it right when it came out on basically TV and DVD. Great movie. It's I remember it just kind of it hooked me from the beginning. It doesn't. I think it's about an hour and 30 minutes. It's not a super long movie, but it's to the point. It gets right into it, and it gives you a great insight of what happened on that day, and just how much of a hero that this pilot was, and another Tom Hanks classic. So Sully, great movie at number 3 for Shom. So my number 3, again, this is where it starts to get personal for me as far as my all-time favorites and what I grew up on and what I watch all the time, if pending my moods. My number 3 is Denzel Washington's Remember the Titans. It's a Disney movie. It's about a football team, a high school football team, and Denzel Washington is the head coach, Coach Boone. He's replacing what was a longtime coach, Coach Yost. Coach Yost was obviously a white man. Denzel's coming in to a white community, as an African American coach, and it's just got a lot of different things going on in that movie as far as the civil rights and getting along and things like that, and then also just how good they are as a team, and Denzel has to go undefeated to keep his job. They said one loss and you're gone. Just a lot of things, that movie brings out, as a sports lover and a competitor, really gets my, juices flowing, if you will. And I want to run through a wall every time that I see them play for Gary Brutier, who was in an accident and gets paralyzed from the waist down. And it's a true story, and that's another element to this that I enjoy about movies, is anytime you can bring a story or a true story back to life is something special. So for my number 3, Remember the Titans, 7.8 out of 10. It was made in 2000. Just something that will be timeless, and I think will go on, for many years to come as a classic movie. So we're getting down to our top 2. Just want to give a shout out to everybody that's listening and making this happen. So thank you guys for making our news team and these guys and enjoy their experience in this class. So number 2, TD is going to lead us off, and it's getting down to our top 6 here. So TD.
Yep. Another 1 and 2 were close for me. I have Tommy Boy, 1995, David Spade, Chris Farley. This one also, just like you said, it's kind of personal. Brings back some good memories of my dad. He, one day I was just laying up in the bedroom and, looking for a good movie on Netflix, and he said, "Go watch Tommy Boy." And I don't think I've ever stopped watching it then. And my stomach hurt for days on end because I was laughing so hard that first time I watched it. And
yeah, Tommy Boy.
Talk about one-liners.
Oh yeah, Tommy Boy is the king of one-liners, and we could probably just take turns quoting the movie from start to finish. But David Spade and Chris Farley were kind of a team in the '90s. They made a movie called Black Sheep as well.
Another good one.
They were on Saturday Night Live together. Just making hit after hit and laugh after laugh. And Tommy Boy is at the top of that list for me too. It was on my list of possibilities as top 5 because I wanted to get at least one comedy on there, but I went with Dumb and Dumber. So Tommy Boy classic, can't go wrong with Tommy Boy. And working for Callahan Auto and selling brake pads, and Dan Aykroyd as the head guy there in Chicago, and just a unbelievable timeless comedy that's going to be in living rooms for the rest of our lives.
It amazes me, Chris Farley, how easy it was for him to make other people laugh, and then he got into drugs and it took his own life. But
yeah, he basically a career that ended too soon and a life that ended too soon. He should still be making movies and making us laugh, but he got mixed up with the wrong things and ultimately just lived too fast. He lived life too fast. He needed to slow down. But Tommy Boy and Black Sheep and a couple other movies that he made before he passed was certainly gonna be remembered forever. So
for sure.
Shom, number 2.
All right, my number 2, I'm sending you down to Odessa, Texas. Friday Night Lights, 2004, 7.3 out of 10. Personally, my favorite football movie of all time. Follows the Permian Panthers in their town they're from. It's football, and football's it. Like, everyone in the town, Friday nights, you hear them stories, they shut off the lights and lock everything up. That's what happens when the Permian Panthers are playing. And it just follows their not senior season, but the senior season of good old Boobie Miles, star tailback, Mike Winchell, quarterback. And it just follows their season on their way to state with all the twists and turns, and shows you just what it takes to actually be a family as a team and make something happen that you want to happen.
Yeah, those kind of movies are near and dear to me, just because being a player for 15 years almost on sports teams, and now being a coach for 10 plus years is that's what it's all about, is those memories and those moments where you come together and or you don't come together, and that's what makes or breaks your season, and maybe how you look back on it, and how what you remember most, if you came together or if you didn't, and having regrets or winning championships, and that's Friday Night Lights is a great example of that. And I believe it's Billy Bob Thornton, the head coach in that movie.
Yep.
Yeah, so just a fantastic movie. If you're into sports and being on a team and coming together for a common goal, that's a movie that you're going to enjoy. For my number 2, again, this was tough for me, and again, these are all personal, but this one definitely would rank towards the top for most people.
At this time, anyone all students going on the science field trip, please report to the entrance by the high school office. Any student going on the science field trip, the entrance by the high school office.
Okay, so as you can tell, we are live here in the studio, at North Davies High School. So we're getting, announcements over the intercom. That was the field trip that, our own Jack Townsend and Kirk Wagler and Josh Boblet are going to be heading to. But for my number 2, it's going to be anything and everything related to Star Wars. Star Wars is one of those movies you either love or you hate, more or less, especially, the younger generation, my students' generation, maybe haven't seen the originals, and which is honestly the best of the series, and it will get you hooked for the rest of them. My favorite Star Wars movie is probably Return of the Jedi. It's where Luke Skywalker comes back and takes on his father, Anakin Skywalker, who then is now Darth Vader, and ends up defeating him. And I'm not going to get into all the storylines because they've now made 8 Star Wars movies with a 9th one coming out next year, and also a couple other spin-offs as well. But Star Wars is something I grew up on. I had lightsabers. I had lightsabers with my brothers, and we always did, had battles in our basement. My older cousin was a film major at Indiana State, and one of his projects, he made a reenactment of one of the lightsaber battles from one of the movies, and we played a part in that scene, and that was pretty fun for us. We threw sheets over us to act as our Jedi robes, and we had the lightsabers, and we had sound effects, and it was a pretty sweet childhood. As far as that was what I remember the most is collecting the figurines and getting excited when they started making new Star Wars movies when I was in high school. That was our weekend plan. We went and watched the premiere like at 10 p.m. on a Thursday, and people were dressed up in line waiting to get in, having lightsaber battles in the parking lot. It's the Star Wars crowd is certainly large, and like I said, if you don't like it, you're not gonna like it, and that's just the way it is. But if you do if you like it, you probably love it, and there's really no in between. But Star Wars series, I could get into a lot, all of them, but I'm not going to. Just something personal to me that I grew up on. So that's my number 2, and now we're getting into our number 1 movie. I think you're going to be surprised by mine. It's not going to be a movie that you probably really consider a number 1, but I'm excited to talk about it and what it means to me. So TD, lead us off here. Give us your top movie of all time, and and why.
All right, I'm actually going to throw in some honorable mentions too
Okay.
before I get into my number 1.
Sure.
I had a bunch. I had Finding Nemo, Incredibles, went with a few Disney movies here: Monster Inc., Toy Story, WALL-E. That was a good childhood movie. Ratatouille.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went to horror: Friday the 13th, The Conjuring, Conjuring 2.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have E.T., Titanic, Jaws.
Titanic, definitely one that I'm a big history guy. As far as I'm not a big history guy, but one of the things I am big on in history is the Titanic. I'm really interested in about that event and the sinking of the Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
The love story on that movie is just kind of an addition, to make it a movie, to make it a Hollywood movie. But Titanic is definitely something I watch anytime it's on. But you got to dedicate half your day to it because it's about 6 hours long. But
yeah. Another one I had, childhood favorite, watching it with my grandparents, Sound of Music.
Oh yeah, classic
that
movie.
movie.
My dad would like to hear you say that because he loves that movie. Loves it.
So my number 1, I've actually got a tie. I'm gonna go with The Sandlot and The Blind Side. Sandlot 1993. Patrick Arena, Tom, Gary, Chancey, Lepardi.
Mm-hmm.
Just a bunch of hard-nosed boys going out and playing ball.
Yeah, nothing better than The Sandlot, man. I mean, it's not my number 1, but you name all these movies, and I kind of want to scratch out my number 1 and put something else because there's so many good movies out there. But yeah, The Sandlot. Tell us more about The Sandlot if you can, or what it means to you.
Yeah, just I don't know exactly how I got into watching it, or the first time I watched it, but like Tommy Boy, like Forrest Gump, I can recite just about any part of that movie, and talk about one-liners, one-liners all day. But that just, there's a lot of lines in there that are said that apply to how I play today, or one of the big ones is this is baseball, man. Quit thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Just go play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's big. For me.
Oh yeah, and there's a lot of You're Killing Me Smalls.
Mm-hmm.
Heroes get remembered, but legends never die. Follow your heart. You can never go wrong. Those moments where you're sitting there in the living room as a 10-year-old kid watching this, and you're like, I really do love this game, and I really do love, I really do need to go out and play and practice more, and and play harder and all those things. So,
and then, The Blind Side, 2009, Sandra Bullock, Quentin Aaron, Tim McGraw even played in this one.
Mm-hmm.
My grandpa again showed me this one. Also showed me the movie Fireproof. It just ties into my faith, being a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And true story. Michael Orr played for the Baltimore Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
Picked off the streets, adopted,
Mm-hmm.
and turning into just a phenomenal football player pretty much out of nothing. Big size, size, and that's about it.
Yeah, definitely a really, really good movie, heartfelt, feel good, and another sports movie that brings out the best in people. So, TD, great list, man. Thank you for being on today and giving us your top 5. Definitely we could probably made a top 20, but
For sure.
narrowing it to 5 was tough. So, Shom, give us your number 1 movie and why.
All right, like TD said before, I started my number 1. Had about 4 honorable mentions. Came down to like top 9. Then it got kind of tough for me. Forrest Gump, classic. American Sniper, classic. Superbad, hilarious, and Black Panther, amazing. But throw it down number 1. My personal favorite baseball movie of all time, Moneyball, 2011, 7.6 out of 10. And main actors, you got Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill, and Robin Wright. And it just follows, like, the Oakland Athletics, the baseball team out in Oakland, is they're handicapped. They have the lowest salary constraint in baseball. Like, what they have compared to their teams is, like, they're at the basement, everyone else is the 10th floor or higher. Like, they have, like, $60 million. It's insane. And Billy gets good old Jonah, who plays Peter Brand. He comes over from the Cleveland Indians to help kind of run this team. And they find out, like, they can't compete money-wise. And they come to Peter brings the idea of the way to win is you got to get on base. You can't get on base, you ain't going to score runs. So instead of paying for players, they just pay for on base. And if you can't get on base, you don't play for them. And that just follows their series of how he takes that motto and he makes it work, gets to the playoffs, makes a solid run, and makes baseball, you realize you don't have to pay for the most. You can get the best for your dollar.
Yeah. I know Shom is a big numbers guy and analytics and just stats and things like that. So being this his number 1 movie is no surprise to me. Obviously with him being a baseball guy as well. Moneyball is good on so many levels. It's got moments where you laugh, moments where you clap, moments where you shake your head. You're like, man, really? Just in a good way. But Shom's right. It's about getting on base, and he makes a comment about somebody asked Billy Beane, the general manager, what about I like to run? What about stolen bases? Nope, it's an out. Can't steal. Take a walk. Find a way on base. And at one point that season, they won 20 straight games. Capped off with a walk-off homer from journeyman Scott Hatteberg. It's a name that kind of traveled around in the early 2000s. But Brad Pitt just really, really came through with Moneyball. It was fantastic, and Jonah Hill was awesome as well in his role. Just so funny but serious at the same time.
Pretty much the perfect sidekick.
Yeah, exactly. The sidekick to running a baseball team. He played a perfect role. So great number 1, Shom. Thanks again. Top 5, and for joining us this morning on the Coach's Corner. I'll get right into my number 1. And again, this is not going to be the popular pick by a lot of people, probably most anybody. But this is what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, not the newer ones, the old ones, the classic, the original from 1990, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 6.8 out of 10. This came out when I was 2, and then I basically just fell in love with it. My favorite turtle of the 4 is Raphael. A lot of people's favorites is Michelangelo because of his comedy routine he gives, and you got Leonardo, kind of the leader of the pack, and then Donatello is the smart one. Raphael's kind of the rebel, and the tough guy, which is kind of not who I am, but for some reason I just took a liking to him as a kid. This movie was, and then obviously they made some more movies after this, but the original was what got me hooked. And I remember going to Universal Studios with my parents. And as a kid, and they were there with April O'Neil and the Shredder. basically to take pictures and get autographs and things like that. And we waited in line for a long time to get my picture taken with the turtles and get the stamped autographs in my little autograph book. And come to find out, we didn't have any film in the camera. So we had to turn around and do it all over again to get the pictures. So needless to say, my dad wasn't too happy. My mom had to have it, and my dad was, probably not loving it at that point in time just because of the lines and the time it took to do it. But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, just something that's near and dear to me as far as what I enjoyed as a kid, and I watched it, over and over. I wore out the VHS, when I was 5-6 years old, and I'll still watch it to this day, as a 30-year-old man, and I always will. And my kids, my wife and I have already went. We like to go to flea markets and antique malls and stuff, and we found some old school Turtles bed sheets and bedclothes. So we've already bought that for possibly our future kids. So definitely my number one. And is it the greatest movie of all time? No, but to me, it's just what I enjoyed the most as a kid and growing up. So that's why it's number one for me. But that's my top 5. You guys have any closing thoughts? Anything to shout out to Cougar Nation?
Kind of like what Coach McNabb just said. Like, are these top 5 movies what we said the top 5 all time? Even some of them probably don't even make the top 250 of all time. But
right.
The way I look at movies is, it's not really like, it's part of how good the movie actually is, but it's like the memories you have that come along with the movie, like
Who you watch it with,
what it means to you, what it did for you in your childhood. Like Coach McNabb, he was addicted to it, completely just ran his childhood, and that's the way I look at movies.
Absolutely. And movies are, going to the movies is kind of a, it's an expensive night to go out to the movies with a family. So. A lot of times you watch movies cuddled up in your living room, rather than going out, especially if you've got 5 or 6 people to pay for. So, like Tyler said, who you watch it with is big, and creating those memories at your house. And, it may not necessarily be the best movie of all time, but it's something that you remember as a, living in your, growing up in your home. So, Monday, we are going to be live at the Veterans Day program. If you guys want to tune in, we're gonna be doing everything we can over the next couple days to be live streaming the Veterans Day program on Facebook and or YouTube Live. So be looking out for that. We'll be back with you next Friday with another podcast, and continue to watch the news. It'll be on our YouTube channel. We have a Twitter account. We have a Facebook page. So go out and like and subscribe and follow all those different things. We really enjoy bringing this stuff to you guys, and these kids are really having a blast. And we'd love to hear from you. If you have an idea for a podcast topic, shoot us an email. If you got something that we could do better or we could do different, shoot us an email, and we'll try to get that done. But if there's nothing else, we're going to go ahead and get out of here and get these guys on to second period. So appreciate you guys tuning in, and thank you. Did it not work? This is longer than 11 minutes.
Yeah.